someone who claims to be a professor and is a professor and puts the word doctor in front of their name, you think that they would be aware of this very basic philosophical kind of like puzzle, right? And the thing is, almost every mainstream philosophical framework concludes that it is morally acceptable to steal food to feed your family. It's a wonderful day in the homiehood, a wonderful day for a homie. Won't you be my homie to Taro? Here he is. So the most annoying thing about this guy is that in all of these mainstream media outlets, like I saw him mentioned in Globe and Mail. He was on like CTV. He's on CBC. In all of these important mainstream media outlets, he is the person that they bring on. He's the person they bring on to be like the expert on like inflation and how it's affecting grocery stores. And he's basically riding Galen Weston's dick real hard. Yeah, because he got a big grant from Galen Weston's charity for like $60,000 or something. So of course he's like, hey, don't steal from Loblaws. Okay, so this is how crazy Twitter is. Apparently breaking the law and encouraging others to do the same is morally acceptable. So, and it's like this link to Canadians are now stealing overpriced food from grocery stores with zero remorse. And it's like, okay, like this should be indicative. Like if you're just like a normal person, you're like, this is kind of like indicative of like a greater societal problem, is that we're pushing people to the edges of society where they have no choice but to steal food in order to survive, in order to feed their families. And this moron, he's just like this. Okay, first of all, why does he have to put crazy in quotation marks? This is how crazy Twitter is. Like, wait, why? Everyone knows Twitter is crazy, but we don't all know it's quote unquote crazy. So then, of course, like he gets a whole bunch of backlash for this horrible take because he's a jerk and he has no. And I mean, the real problem is that he's always the one being platformed to talk about this issue. And he's someone who can't bring himself to even say that, like, hey, poor people exist. Poor people exist. They're getting pushed to the fringes of society. They're unable to get by. What are we going to do about the problem? And yeah, sure. Should we be pushing to people to the point where they have to steal food? No, we shouldn't. But you know how we help people do that? We like lift them out of poverty. We make sure that they're not falling victim to this, the rising rent increases, or we, advocate for something better to improve. You know what would be a great thing we could advocate for? Lower food prices. Because then people would be able to afford, wait for it, more food. But for some reason, for this person who's constantly platformed, exploiting people for their essential need to eat food is morally acceptable, but stealing is not. So he doubles down. He gets all the backlash from this tweet, and he doubles down, and he's like, stealing food is wrong. It's criminal. In Canada. Full stop. No ifs, no buts. Disagree? Sure. Our truth is, we get the food regime we deserve. When food inflation drops later this year, and it will, crickets. So there's just so much here that is like so annoying. Like, our truth is, we get the food regime we deserve. Do you really think he meant to say regime? Like, it makes it sound like we elected like an army to deliver us grocery stores. Anyways, that part is like really confusing, but so stealing is wrong. Full stop. Like, obviously it's criminal, but is it wrong? Is it wrong? Now, most philosophical frameworks, right? One of the first kind of like questions you ask in like a philosophy class, or, you know, if you're trying to teach kids about like complex ethical situations, is like, is it okay to steal food to feed your family, right? That seems like a very kind of basic philosophical question that someone who claims to be a professor and is a professor and puts the word doctor in front of their name, you think that they would be aware of this very basic philosophical kind of like puzzle, right? And the thing is, almost every mainstream philosophical framework concludes that it is morally acceptable to steal food to feed your family, because under like utilitarianism, there's a greater risk of harm being caused by not feeding your family. Like, if children die, do you think that is worse than a vendor, and in this case, like a major corporation who's making record profits? Do you think it's worse that if children die, or that corporation loses out on profits that they're not even going to notice, probably even going to be covered by like large insurance claims that they have, you know? So it's just a very bizarre take to have, and a bit disappointing that someone who calls themselves a professor, someone who is platformed by mainstream media, has the lack of self-awareness, and they think and they view poor people essentially as this like, as first of all, like they don't exist, or second of all, like they're kind of just this burden to society, right? But these are people who probably work one full-time job or several jobs in order to pay their bills, because that is the world that we have designed. And you know, everybody knows that in this day and age, if you work a full-time minimum wage job, that's not enough money to get by. The way rent has increased, the way inflation is causing, you know, food and gas and essential services that you need in order to survive. Everybody knows that working that full-time minimum wage job is not enough to get by for a single person, especially like in the major city centers like Toronto, and, you know, here in Peterborough, which was once like a very affordable place, at least more so than Toronto. It's basically has the same symptoms all across Canada, all across North America, all across the world, where we are facing these problems. And instead of putting this, hey, you know what, it's bad that people are stealing, into additional context, like you think a professor, a doctor would, there's none of that. It's just, hey, poor people don't steal because, and everybody knows he's getting money from Galen Weston's foundation. So complete BS. Should not follow this guy. His real name, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. You'll probably see him in the near future if you're watching some mainstream piece about food and inflation, and how none of us can afford to sustain our own lives, and how we're this stain on society. Galen Weston is a delicate baby, and we need to tuck him in and kiss his forehead and tell him we like his commercials. Oh man, I hate his commercials. No name brand commercial. Galen. Is this it?
I know food prices are top of mind these days.
Okay, so here's like also here's Galen. One thing is really weird, he always puts himself in the spotlight like this, you know? It's kind of strange. Like, if I was a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, oligarch, I would probably stay the hell out of the public spotlight.
I know food prices are top of mind these days. They just keep going up. Your grocery bill is
But why, Galen? Why?
higher because it costs manufacturers way more to produce products than it has in decades. That's clearly no comfort when you're worried about your own food bill. So, to help hit the brakes on food inflation, we're freezing the price of all no-name products until January 31st. That's 1,500 essentials locked. Food prices go up, no-name prices won't. Guaranteed. We know.
he did this. He did this when the prices had already gone up. The prices went up, and then he locked it. And then actually, it was the forecast was saying like, "Hey, prices might go back down." And then he's like,
Know that every cent counts.
"Nope, locked." And then like he also like virtue signals as if like he's doing the right thing and trying to help us all out. Thanks, Galen. I don't even shop at any of the Loblaw stores. But you really don't have much choice because under capitalism, you know, everything gets owned by the same 3 companies. So we deserve. I don't remember blowing up a bus full of blind kids. Yo, this is the food regime you deserve, Deloy. Legality is morality is like the rallying cry of dismal liberals. Yeah, I know. Like, was it not too long ago that like weed was illegal and it was a bad thing, and now it's an essential service? Which is crazy. Like the law can change, and you know who's gonna change the law? Zellers, where the lowest price is the law. Look at the percentage of kids in food insecure homes today, and then tell me stealing is wrong. Well, that's the other thing. Like people, you're basically telling people that they have to go to the food bank. Like don't steal from my boy Galen. Just go line up at the food bank with all the other poors. You know, like how dare you steal and like get the food that you want that's rich in essential vitamins and minerals. You go line up at the food bank with the rest of the poors. That's basically what they're saying, you know.